Hi, I'm Alex Grieve, better known as I Be Crazy, and in this video I'm going to teach you about mounting and repairing of the Race Spec 5.8 GHz antenna system. When you race, you tend to push things harder and harder. The harder you push them, the more likely you're going to break something. And anything located on the outskirts of the vehicle frame is likely to break, which is why we break so many props. But many of us are starting to break antennas too, and though the Race Spec is really durable, it's not exactly indestructible. Many of you I see mounting these to the top of the frame using an extension cable. And this is a great idea because if you mount them right to the transmitter, you take a good hit and you have a broken transmitter. And the transmitter is usually more expensive than the antenna was in the first place. So use of a simple extension cable through the vehicle, as on this one, screw it into your video transmitter, and then screw it into the frame, fixes the breakage problem with the video transmitter. Unfortunately, the antenna can now break if it's mounted on top, because when you flip over, this antenna doesn't have anywhere to go, and typically the SMA will shear right there. So one way to get around it is simply to put it lower on the frame, as I've done on this model. As you can see, I've got a little bit of frame up above, so if I flip over and I crash, the antenna actually has a place to go, and then when it's just bent up, I can just bend it back to shape and I'm ready to fly again. But not all of us have that luxury, and some of us have got to mount it to the top of the frame or directly to the video transmitter. For those of you that have to do this, you can use a right angle adapter. Take off your antenna, screw on your right angle adapter, and then screw your antenna right to that. Now I know what a lot of you people are thinking, well, now that antenna is flat and I need it to be upright, correct? Well, there's an easy fix for that too. The Race Spec, just like the Bluebeam Ultra, is meant to be heated up and bent to shape. So if you want it to be bent at a 90-degree angle and retain that, simply take a lighter or grill starter or even a micro torch at distance and heat this area up real good, not super hot, but warm, and then bend it 90 degrees like that, and then simply let it cool. When it cools, it will retain this orientation. Now, as far as mounting it on the aircraft, the great thing is now the weak point is the right angle adapter. It's physically the weakest point on the entire aircraft. So when you crash, typically the right angle adapter pulls right apart, leaving part of the right angle adapter inside the vehicle. And you can simply unscrew this, press it back together, and then you can actually solder it and it will still hold, but in the event of a crash, still fail as well. The other great thing about a right angle adapter is it gives a pivot point for the antenna to move should you crash. The antenna has a place to go, so it may not always come apart, it might just fold back. So let's say you did mount it directly to the top of the frame like this, and you crashed and you sheared off the SMA. Well, I'll show you how to repair that. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is break this antenna, and I'm down here in my mess I call my basement because it's the only place I happen to have a vise. Why a vise? Because, well, I'm going to be swinging one of these to break the antenna, and if I swing it at my frame, I'm probably going to miss and break my frame. I used to be a carpenter years ago, but I was never very good at swinging a hammer. So let's tighten this good and tight in the vise. See what I mean? Okay, it's not breaking. Let's try it again. Try if I hit it right there. Still not breaking. This might take a while. Let's try this way. Nope, come on. Ah! Finally, okay. After several repeated impacts of the hammer, I was actually able to break the SMA apart. Wow, I really tightened that in there. Okay, so the nice thing is we can see the center pin is still attached. So that's there. So all we have to do is straighten that. And now we're gonna go repair it upstairs in my lab. Okay, so now to repair our antenna. First things first, I bent my center pin, so my center pin is now straight. Then I'm gonna need to remove some of this heat shrink tubing. So there's a collar on there, so don't worry about cutting through the cable. You won't really have much success there, but maybe a 1/4 inch worth of heat shrink tubing should be removed so that you expose the collar underneath. Okay. Now take your coupler and push it back in there. Perfection is optional. Just get it in there good, as good as you can. Now all that remains to be done is to solder it. Now for this you can use a torch or any other soldering means. Me personally, we're in my lab, so I've got a soldering iron, so I'm going to use a soldering iron. Now what you want to do is add heat right here at the base. The more heat the better. You don't have to worry here. You won't damage it. So this thing would stay upright. All you do is just keep feeding in solder. Keep the heat there. The longer you keep the heat there, the better chance you have of it wicking all the way up. But after about 15 to 20 seconds, just release the heat. And there you have it. All repaired and ready to go.